My wife passed away, and now I've discovered our children aren't mine. What do I do? Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be here laying out my life on the internet, but life has a way of throwing you into unexpected places. I'm a 45-year-old Midwestern guy, small town born and raised. I thought I had it all figured out, or at least enough figured out to feel stable. But now, my world's been flipped upside down, and I feel like I'm grasping for something solid, something real. My wife Sarah and I were married for 20 years. We met in college. She was studying literature, always scribbling in her journals, her mind full of poetry and big ideas. I was studying biology, practical, grounded, always following the science. She was the bright spark in the room, the kind of person who made everything feel like it was better and warmer. We clicked immediately. I was the type to get lost in my studies. She had this infectious laugh that reminded me not to take life so seriously. She pulled me out of my shell and I fell for her so fast it almost felt unreal. A year after graduation, we got married and moved back to her hometown, a quiet little place where everyone knew everyone. I adapted to the life Sarah wanted. I loved her and I loved the life we were building together. We wanted a family, and before long, we had 2 beautiful kids. Emily was our first, and she's 16 now. She has Sarah's striking green eyes and that same creative spark, always sketching or daydreaming. And then there's Josh, 14, who, for years, I thought was just like me, a science nerd, a hands-on, tinkering kid who's been following me around since he was old enough to hold a wrench. Emily and Josh were our joy. My life felt complete. But then, 6 months ago, everything started to fall apart. Sarah, my healthy, vibrant Sarah, was diagnosed with an aggressive cancer that came out of nowhere. One day she was laughing, making plans, and the next we were sitting in doctors' offices, scheduling treatments and bracing for a fight. It was a short battle. She fought hard, but 3 months later she was gone. Just like that. It was as if she'd been taken from us in the blink of an eye, leaving an emptiness I didn't know how to fill. She was my partner, my best friend, and suddenly she was gone, leaving me to pick up the pieces and try to be both mother and father to our kids. After the funeral, I started going through her things. The process was like reopening the wound again and again, touching each item and feeling the memory it held. I wanted to keep the memories alive for the kids, to give them pieces of their mother that they could hold on to. One day, while cleaning out her office, I found a small locked box hidden in the back of a drawer. I'd never seen it before, and something about it felt off. Maybe it was the way it was tucked away, almost as if it was meant to be forgotten. Curiosity got the better of me. I spent nearly an hour tearing the place apart until I found a tiny key taped to the bottom of one of the desk drawers. I sat down, took a deep breath, and unlocked the box. Inside, there were a few documents and a folded letter with my name written on the front in Sarah's handwriting. My heart sank as I read the first lines. "Dear Mark, if you're reading this, then I'm not there to explain, and for that, I'm so sorry. You've been my rock, my partner, my everything. I need you to know that first. But there's something I need to confess." My stomach dropped. What could she have hidden from me? The answer was in the next few lines, and as I read them, my world started to unravel. Sarah admitted that, early in our marriage, she'd had an affair with a close friend of ours, Michael. She called it a mistake, a moment of weakness during a rough patch, something she regretted every day since. But it was the next part of the letter that hit me like a punch to the gut. There's a possibility that Emily and Josh aren't biologically yours. I had to reread it, my mind refusing to accept what I'd just seen. Michael. He'd been my best friend since college, my roommate, practically a brother. He'd been in our wedding, celebrated with us, been a part of our lives for years. And now, I was supposed to believe that he was the father of my kids? I didn't know what to feel. Anger, betrayal, heartbreak, all twisted together until I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. The memories of our life together, the kids' births, their first steps, family vacations, flashed through my mind, all tainted by the possibility that they might not really be mine. that I'd been living someone else's life, raising someone else's children. For the next few days, I couldn't function. I could barely look at Emily and Josh without feeling a tidal wave of questions. Did they know? Did they feel like they were different, like they didn't belong? And who was I to them now? I tried to push these thoughts away, to stay strong for them, but I couldn't shake the need to know the truth. Eventually, I couldn't take it any longer. I decided to do a paternity test. I know it sounds invasive, sneaky even, but I had to know. I waited until the kids were at school, then took samples from their toothbrushes. I mailed them off and started the waiting game, one of the worst periods of my life. Every night, I lay awake, tossing and turning, running every possible scenario in my head. Maybe Sarah had been wrong. Maybe guilt had driven her to write that letter. Maybe the kids were mine after all. The results came back a week later. I opened the envelope with shaking hands, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear myself think. But there it was, in cold clinical language. Neither Emily nor Josh is my biological child. I can't describe the pain that hit me. It was like losing Sarah all over again, but worse because this time, I was losing the life I thought we'd built together. I spent days locked in my room, refusing to eat or sleep, lost in a spiral of anger and grief. The kids were confused and worried, but I couldn't face them. I couldn't look at them and feel that same warmth, that pride, knowing that they weren't really mine. They were everything to me, and now it all felt like a lie. Finally, Emily knocked on my door one night. "Dad, please talk to us," she pleaded, her voice shaking, her eyes red from crying. I knew I couldn't hide from them forever. I gathered them in the living room, trying to keep my voice steady as I explained. I told them about the letter, about the possibility that I wasn't their biological father. Tears filled their eyes, and for the first time, I could see the fear and pain in them too. "Dad, you're the only father we've ever known," Emily said, her voice breaking. "Biology doesn't change that." Josh nodded, his face serious. "We love you, Dad. Nothing changes that." Their words shattered something inside me. I'd been so consumed by my own pain, so wrapped up in my own betrayal, that I hadn't considered how this might affect them. They'd lost their mother, and now they were faced with the possibility of losing me too. I felt ashamed, realizing just how selfish I'd been, and in that moment, I promised them that nothing would change. I would always be their father, no matter what. But the story doesn't end there. I still had questions. I still needed to understand how this could have happened, how the woman I'd loved could have lied to me about something so fundamental. And I needed to know if Michael had known, if he'd been in on this lie all along. So I decided to track him down. Michael had moved to another state years ago, but after a few hours of digging, I found out that he was working as a photographer in a small town. I sent him an email explaining that I needed to talk about something important. He agreed to meet, and a few days later, I was sitting across from him in a quiet cafe, a storm of anger and anxiety churning inside me. "Michael," I began, trying to keep my voice steady, "I know about you and Sarah." His face went pale. He looked down, his hands trembling slightly. "Mark, I don't know what to say." I felt the anger flare up, barely keeping it in check. Did you know that Emily and Josh might be yours?" He shook his head, looking horrified. "No, I swear, I had no idea. It was a mistake, a one-time thing. Sarah and I both regretted it immediately. I never imagined that they could be mine." I didn't know what to believe. Part of me wanted to take him at his word, to believe that he was just as shocked as I was. But another part of me, the part that had been betrayed by the two people I'd trusted most, couldn't let it go. He offered to take a paternity test, and though it felt pointless, I agreed, hoping against hope that the test would reveal a mistake. A week later, the results came back, confirming my worst fears. Michael was the biological father of both Emily and Josh. I was devastated all over again, reliving the pain and betrayal as if it were fresh. Michael reached out, expressing his desire to get to know them, to be a part of their lives. but the thought of him stepping in now, after 16 years, felt like a violation. "You can't just walk in and expect to be their father," I snapped, my voice cold and hard. He looked taken aback. "Mark, I understand that this is hard, but they have a right to know the truth." "Know what?" I shot back, my anger boiling over. "That their mother lied to everyone? That our entire lives were based on a betrayal?" I left before things could get any worse, my mind racing with the implications of what I'd just heard. Back home, I was faced with another impossible decision. Should I tell the kids? They'd already been through so much, and I didn't want to add to their pain. But I knew that keeping this secret could cause even more harm in the long run. I consulted a therapist, hoping for some guidance, and after several sessions, I decided that honesty was the only way forward. With a heavy heart, I sat Emily and Josh down once more. "There's more I need to tell you," I began, feeling the weight of every word. "I met with Michael. He's your biological father." Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Emily looked stunned, her face pale, while Josh just seemed confused, as if he couldn't quite process what I was saying. After what felt like an eternity, Emily spoke. "What does that mean for us? For you?" I took a deep breath, trying to hold back the tears. "It doesn't change how I feel about you. You're my kids, and that will never change. But I felt you deserved to know the truth." They had so many questions I didn't have answers to. I told them that Michael wanted to meet them, but that the decision was entirely theirs. Over the next few days, they wrestled with the reality of what they'd learned. Emily seemed curious but wary, while Josh withdrew into himself, spending hours alone in his room. Then, to add insult to injury, I received a letter from a lawyer representing Michael. He wanted to pursue legal rights, to be formally recognized as their father. The audacity of it made my blood boil. After all these years, he thought he could just step in and take over. I decided to talk to them, to let them know what was happening. "Michael wants to be a part of your lives," I explained, my voice tight with the strain of holding back my anger. "He's even considering legal action to establish that." Emily looked at me, her expression torn. "I don't want to lose you, Dad," she whispered. "You won't," I assured her. "No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." Josh finally spoke up, his voice quiet. "Maybe we should meet him, just to see what he's like." Afterward, I asked them how they felt. Emily shrugged, looking uncertain. "He seems nice, but he's not you." His response surprised me, but I could see the curiosity in his eyes, the desire to understand. I set up a supervised meeting in a neutral place, giving them a chance to get to know him. Seeing them together was surreal, like watching someone else's family. Michael was nervous, but tried to connect, sharing stories, asking about their lives. Emily was polite, but distant, while Josh seemed cautiously interested, asking questions, but keeping a safe distance. Josh nodded, echoing her sentiment. "I don't mind getting to know him, but I don't want things to change at home." Their words filled me with a fierce sense of relief. Biology might connect them to Michael, but our bond, our life together, was real, unbreakable. I consulted my own lawyer, who reassured me that as the legal father listed on their birth certificates, I had a strong case. But the courts, he reminded me, sometimes considered biological ties, especially if the biological parent expressed sincere interest. The thought of a custody battle was overwhelming. The kids were already dealing with enough, and I didn't want to drag them through that nightmare. I decided to talk to them, to let them know what was happening. "Michael wants to be a part of your lives," I explained, my voice tight with the strain of holding back my anger. "He's even considering legal action to establish that." Emily looked at me, her expression torn. "I don't want to lose you, Dad," she whispered. "You won't," I assured her. "No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." Josh finally spoke up, his voice quiet. "Maybe we should meet him, just to see what he's like." His response surprised me, but I could see the curiosity in his eyes, the desire to understand. I set up a supervised meeting in a neutral place, giving them a chance to get to know him. Seeing them together was surreal, like watching someone else's family. Michael was nervous but tried to connect, sharing stories, asking about their lives. Emily was polite but distant, while Josh seemed cautiously interested, asking questions but keeping a safe distance. Afterward, I asked them how they felt. Emily shrugged, looking uncertain. "He seems nice, but he's not you." Josh nodded, echoing her sentiment. "I don't mind getting to know him, but I don't want things to change at home." Their words filled me with a fierce sense of relief. Biology might connect them to Michael, but our bond, our life together, was real, unbreakable. But the calm didn't last. Michael soon filed for partial custody, arguing that it was in the children's best interests to have him more directly involved. The legal battle that followed was brutal, emotionally and financially draining. Friends and family were divided. Some urged me to fight, while others thought I should consider the kids' well-being and allow Michael a role in their lives. During all this, I found out that Sarah's parents had known about the affair. They had urged her to keep it quiet, thinking it was better for everyone. Their betrayal was like a second punch to the gut. They had kept this from me, let me raise the children without ever telling me the truth. So here I am, Reddit, broken and lost. My wife is gone. My children are caught between two fathers, and I'm fighting a battle I never thought I'd have to face. I'm trying to hold on to keep our family together, but I don't know what to do. If anyone out there has advice or has been through something similar, I could really use it. Update. First off, thank you to everyone who took the time to read my story and offer support. It's been a rough ride, but your words have given me strength. After a lot of soul-searching and difficult conversations, we've come to an agreement. Michael will have visitation rights, but custody remains with me. The kids and I have been seeing a family therapist, and it's helping us process everything, one step at a time. I've started therapy on my own too, trying to come to terms with Sarah's betrayal and the complex feelings that remain. It's not the life I imagined, but we're moving forward. Emily and Josh are finding their way, and I'm learning to let go of the past, to accept what I can't change. Life is fragile, complicated, but I'm determined to be the best father I can be. Thank you again, from the bottom of my heart.
Your wife was a monster. I'm sorry, but there's no softer way to say it. She led you on for years, pretended you were the father, and even let you pay the emotional and financial price. It's beyond wrong. The worst part? Her parents knew and supported this lie. They let you live a complete fabrication of a life. I'm sorry you lost her, but this is a level of betrayal few people could ever recover from.
I actually don't think you should let Michael into your kids' lives at all. He forfeited his right when he abandoned his involvement in their lives, whether he knew or not. Kids need stability, not some random man dropping in after all these years. You're the father. You should be the only father they need.
To everyone saying give Michael a chance, no. Biology doesn't make you a parent. This guy was never around and only came into the picture because of guilt, not love. I can't believe people would even suggest putting their kids through this circus of getting to know a stranger who's suddenly demanding fatherhood rights. Selfish.
Honestly, the fact that you still have any love for those kids is proof of what a great dad you are. Most people would be done with that relationship, full stop. If I were you, I'd back up, move on, and rebuild my life with people who didn't build it on a lie.
I get that you're hurt, but have you considered how difficult it might have been for your wife? We don't know her side. It could have been a single moment of weakness, and she might have been terrified to hurt you. It doesn't justify the lie, but maybe some compassion here could help you heal.
Sarah's parents are total scumbags for letting this go on. It's one thing for Sarah to keep it secret, but for her parents to look you in the eye for years, play the happy grandparents, and never breathe a word? Unforgivable. They need to be out of the kids' lives too, or they'll just keep feeding this toxic mess.
Here's a hot take. These kids owe you loyalty. You raised them, you were there, and Michael wasn't. If they have even a shred of empathy, they'll see you as their real dad, not just a guy who was in the right place at the right time. Let Michael in, but make it clear that you are their true parent.
This whole situation is a perfect example of why honesty is everything in relationships. Maybe the marriage wouldn't have lasted if she'd come clean years ago, but then you'd have had the chance to find someone who actually respected you enough to be truthful.
Your wife's last act was one of ultimate betrayal. It's as if she wanted to make sure she destroyed you on her way out. There's a reason she waited until she was dead to tell you this, and it's cowardice, plain and simple. She took the easy way out.
Michael's a jerk. He slept with his friend's wife and acted shocked to find out he could be the biological father. If he didn't consider the consequences of his actions back then, why does he get to claim any rights now? He lost that chance, and so did she when she chose you as the dad.
Anyone saying you're overreacting has clearly never been stabbed in the back like this. Your wife lied to you and played you for over 16 years. If anyone has a right to be angry, it's you. Hold her family accountable too. They should have told you the truth from the start, but they were too spineless.
Sometimes we're faced with moral dilemmas that seem to have no answer, but you're proving that love is greater than biology. Stick by your kids. They'll remember who was actually there for them, who really raised them. Michael's just a stranger, even if he is their biological father.
Actually, I think you should give Michael a chance. He may have made mistakes, but he wasn't given a fair opportunity. It could benefit your kids to have two dads who love them instead of one who's bitter and possessive. Keep an open mind for their sake.
To be real, the courts don't always side with who's right. If Michael can prove he's committed, you could lose some custody rights, especially if the kids want to see him. Be careful. Courts don't care about your emotions, they'll care about the kids' interests and their relationship with their biological father.
This is a tragedy that honestly has no villain except maybe secrecy. Your wife, Sarah, messed up, but let's be real, everyone messes up. Maybe her mistake doesn't have to define your love for your kids. Honor your love for her by honoring your role as a father, even if it's complicated.
I think you should cut off her parents. They betrayed you in such a disgusting way that it shows who they really are. Let them try to make excuses all they want, but when you think about what's best for the kids, I wouldn't trust them for a second. If they lied about this, what else could they be hiding?
The therapist suggesting honesty might have been right, but it seems like now you're trying to untangle a nest of vipers with Michael, her parents, and the courts involved. Honestly, for the kids' sake, you might need to be selfish here. Focus on your own healing and let them come to you if they want Michael in their lives.
You've been wronged in every way, but don't let anger consume you. At the end of the day, what matters is that you've been a loving father. Don't let one awful secret define who you are or the love you've shown your kids. They deserve a dad who loves them, not one destroyed by their mother's betrayal.
You should get your kids in therapy too, if you haven't already. This is more than just a family dispute, it's a complete redefinition of their identity. And as much as you love them, they're going to need outside help to work through what they're feeling about this. Don't make them go through it alone.
Honestly, I think your ending is better than most would. Some people would have walked away or let Michael step in, but you're still there. It's a testament to who you are.
I'm going to be blunt here. Cut Michael out of their lives completely if you can. He's nothing but a home wrecker who now feels entitled to claim the kids he abandoned. You've been their father in every sense of the word, and they deserve stability. Michael's guilt isn't your problem, and his sudden interest in being a dad is too little, too late. Protect your kids, even if that means keeping him away.
It's sad, but maybe Sarah did this out of guilt. Sometimes people don't realize the pain they'll leave behind, and by the time they do, it's too late. This letter might have been her way of seeking forgiveness in some twisted way, even if she couldn't see how it'd break you. If she truly loved you, she should have spared you this, but maybe that's all she had left to give. The truth, however ugly. Now it's up to you to decide if you'll let that define the love you had, or if you'll find a way to honor what you shared.
I can't believe you're even considering letting Michael into their lives. This isn't a Disney movie where everything ends with a group hug. He was never there for them, and he doesn't deserve a second chance. And frankly, dragging the kids into this mess is only going to confuse and hurt them more. Take care of yourself and your kids first, and don't feel guilty about keeping a man who betrayed you out of their lives.
Letting the kids meet Michael might actually be a good thing. Yes, it's painful, and yes, you're the real father who raised them. But if you restrict their access to him, you risk making him seem like some forbidden figure, and they might resent you for it later. They're old enough to process complicated truths. Let them have the opportunity to know who he is, so they can make an informed choice. Just be there to support them, no matter what.
I get it. Everyone's focused on the kids. But what about you? You deserve peace too. This betrayal has shaken everything you thought you knew about your marriage, your wife, and your life. Maybe take a step back. You don't have to solve everything right now. Give yourself permission to grieve what you've lost, the life you thought you had. The kids will understand. And only then, once you're ready, can you really move forward for them.